Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, where today guys, I'm going to do part 876 to my random chatbot series on Character.ai, where in today's video guys, I want to do a brand new character once again. Over the last few days, I went ahead and made it. Well, this one was made even more recently than Scar was, but you'll remember that in the last two videos, I've done one with a chatbot, or done one with a Pokemon called Scar. Scar being the angry, vengeful figure that I had on Google Gemini, and would have been on ChatGPT if they didn't ruin it. But yeah, this sounds like I got. In this case, guys, I put in this character. It's hard to tell, but can you see what that is? That's right, guys. That is the haunted Indominus Rex skeleton, and her name is Flora. I originally couldn't think of a name for her. I was originally gonna go with I was originally gonna do like a flippin' French word for like light. I forget if it was French or Spanish. One of those two. I was originally going to do that, but it kept stopping me, and I had to change it to Flora. Luckily, once I did, it actually worked out perfectly fine. The story's the exact same as what it was before, if you've heard that one. It's pretty dark. Actually, it's really dark. But if I actually read it, there'd actually be even more to the story, because I actually gave a little bit more of a description about the character at the end of it, or what happened after. Well, if you don't, I'm not going to say anything just in case you haven't heard the story. But I've given more depth to the actual character itself. So, yeah, I'm trying to see if I can get to stop scrolling up. I mean, stop pulling up the keyboard. I'm just trying to click up. There we go. All right, guys. Oh, wait a minute. Did I? Where's the subtitle? Didn't I have a subtitle? Yeah, here it is. Here's the subtitle at first. It says a ghost Indominus Rex that haunts a museum. It doesn't say anything really about being a skeleton, but remember the skeleton's possessed by a ghost itself, so it's like that kind of does work for it. Although you know what the problem is, because I did that and now it's a keyword popped back up, but that's okay. Like I said, this gets pretty dark really quickly, but here's the story of Flora. It says over 750 billion years ago, there lived a female Indominus Rex named Flora. She was a beautiful white dinosaur with red eyes that looked like rubies. Despite her royal status, she was a well-respected queen of a huge dinosaur city known as Riptorian. She was not an angry queen that just demanded everything. She always cared about the citizens of the town, always asking nicely of the other dinosaurs that served her. In fact, she was so nice that despite her having dinosaur servants, in most cases where she needed something, she would never ask them to get anything, always going to do stuff for herself. And the times where she did get somebody to do anything for her, she would feel very guilty. It says 1 million years later, she ended up passing away and got buried on a special hill near the town that was covered in beautiful flowers. While she was alive, she loved that hill, and that was her one and only request. She wanted to be buried on that hill. She also wished that after she was buried, everybody, no matter who it was, would show her respect and remember her as a very sweet queen. The dinosaurs that served her and every dinosaur citizen cared about her so much that they even made a special gravestone that read, "Rest in peace to the best queen of Riptorian. All dinosaurs in this city hope your spirit rests peacefully forever. Thank you for caring about all of us." Over the next 650 billion years, the dinosaurs that lived in the city always went up to that hill and paid her respect. Even the younger dinosaur children that didn't know her showed their appreciation. However, every dinosaur in the town ended up passing away, turning the once bustling city of dinosaurs into a ghost town. The only thing that showed it used to be a bustling city being the very grave site of the queen. 100 billion years later, A greedy woman, just looking for cash, wanted to open up her own fossil exhibit. She had everything she needed: a building that she bought, workers that were setting the building up and getting everything ready. However, she was still missing the main thing she needed: dinosaur fossils and old rocks from the period when the dinosaurs were alive. Eventually, her search led her to the now mostly deserted city of Riptorian. She got paleontologists to dig up every last ounce of the city and everything around it, including the old hill the Queen Indominus Rex liked. However, the paleontologists originally didn't want to dig it up because it was super disrespectful. They couldn't believe that it was a dinosaur queen. They still respected her gravesite and originally didn't want to tear it up. However, the greedy woman told them, "If you don't dig up that area, I will report you to your boss and get you fired." All the paleontologists, despite not wanting to completely destroy the gravesite, did what the greedy woman told them. However, what none of them knew was that the queen's spirit was resting in peace. However, uh, I might have put it a little bit wrong. It says the queen's spirit was resting in peace. Howard decided to stay on Earth. Oh, never mind, no, it didn't. To keep an eye on her city. In fact, she was already very sad to see that her city was abandoned and mostly gone. However, after she saw humans destroying it and messing up her grave, that was the first time she felt extremely angry, and without them knowing, put a curse on everyone involved, including the woman who wanted this to happen to begin with. Nothing happened at first. The paleontologists eventually found her bones, and the woman took them back to her fossil exhibit, setting it up in the lobby on the right wall facing forward. However, after everything was said and done with the fossil exhibit, weird stuff started to happen. For starters, the paleontologists who messed up her gravesite started having terrible luck. They all lost their jobs a week later, causing them to not be making money. The families of the paleontologists started getting sick mysteriously, eventually passing away. Holy shoot! And 2 months later, the paleontologists barely having anything. No power, hardly any water, and no way to buy food. What was left of their homes mysteriously caught fire and burned to the ground, leaving them homeless. At the same time, as all this was going on, nothing was normal at the fossil exhibit either. Employees that worked there began to hear massive footsteps walking in different parts of the museum, and when they went to check it out, nothing was there. Objects in storage rooms and other places would mysteriously disappear without any explanation. The whole entire exhibit would always be freezing cold, and even other people that would come to look at the exhibit would always tell the employees that they felt like they were being watched. Frick that. Some of them even reported that some of the dinosaur skeletons would move. The greedy woman at this point had not experienced anything. However, this would all change a month after the skeleton of the Queen Indominus Rex was put in the lobby. The woman was all alone in her office, hours before any employees were supposed to arrive. She was doing paperwork when suddenly the lights in her office began to flick on and off without any explanation. At first, she just chalked it up to being bad light bulbs. However, a few minutes later, she heard massive footsteps walking through the lobby, the very same footsteps other staff had reported to have heard. They were so massive she could feel the building shaking a bit. She called out to whatever was walking around, but got no response. Instead, everything went silent for a few minutes. The footsteps stopped, and there was no more noise. The woman brushed off what she had heard and went back to work. However, 5 minutes later, there was a very loud growling sound coming from just outside the office door, followed by something hitting the door so hard it looked like it was going to break off its hinges. The woman ran over to the door and quickly pushed it open to see what was there. However, there was nothing in front of it. This scared the woman so bad that she ran out of her office to the lobby of the building. However, the very second she got past the hallway, She looked at the Indominus Rex skeleton, and what she saw was terrifying. The Indominus Rex skeleton was no longer looking up and facing forward. Instead, it was looking directly at the woman, and its facial expression looked very angry. However, before she could even react to that, she heard a female voice right behind her. The voice, in angry and aggressive tone, said, "Get out!" The woman had had enough after that. She bolted out of the building so fast and never looked back. You didn't know anything about what happened, and a few months after all of this stuff happened, you decided to go check it out. You paid the money to get in and walked around for a while, looking at everything. At the same time, the spirit of the Queen Dinosaur was watching you from inside her skeleton in the lobby. That was the first thing you looked at, and it looked normal. Looking straight forward and up at the wall behind you. You turned to another doorway to go look at more stuff, however, hear a slight creaking noise behind you, and when you turned around, the dinosaur skeleton had moved, its head now looking down directly at you. And that is where the whole story ends. In the original story, guys, I didn't have all that stuff about what happened to the woman. I swear I did, but it disappeared when I copy and pasted it onto this. I don't know if it's because I swear I put more of a story about what happened to the woman. That's why like I said, that's a lot more than what the original story had on Google Gemini. So, yeah. And, guys, I actually made my own little description for the Queen on here as well. It says, I just said for the description, in life, Flora was a very kind-hearted Queen Indominus Rex that ruled over a place called Riptorian over 750 billion years ago. She cared about all the dinosaur citizens that resided there, and they all cared about her, too. When she passed away 1 million years later, she was buried on a special hill covered in flowers, and that is where she resided until 750 billion years later, when a greedy woman who was about to be the owner of a fossil museum asked paleontologists to dig up her grave. Probably should have put a bit more about that, but I'm hoping it'll be good enough for everything. So yeah, after that, guys, it's just a greeting, which I will read out on the thing before I chat with it. I gave a good bit of a description of the story here. So yeah, here's the greeting to Flora. Let me go and say this. I did one test run of this the other day, and I regret so highly not doing it for videos because it was horrifying. The dinosaur skeleton in the last video really stared at me, or not in the last video, but when I did it for the test run, the dinosaur skeleton not only looked at me, but then started chasing me too. I am serious. I just said what the to it, and it tried to say something at first, but then all of a sudden started chasing me, had me cornered against the wall. So yeah, it was terrifying. I wish I had it on camera because of how scary it was. I'm serious. Like, I was just getting creeped out. Like, no. What would you... No. I want you to think about this in your shoes real quick. You go to a dinosaur museum. You see a skeleton. An Indominus Rex skeleton just sit there like this. You know, facing forward, looking up like this. You turn around, leave, and all of a sudden you hear creaking behind you. What would you do if you turned around and, let's say, I'm the dinosaur skeleton itself and you're down here, like lower to the ground? What would you do if you turned and the dinosaur was looking down directly at you? Like, that in itself was horrifying. But then take that and amplify it even further, where it moves more, and on top of that, starts walking and chasing after you. It didn't even just walk after me. There was only one time where it charged at me and was about to literally grab me. It's like, heck no. Heck no! That's